Hey everyone, this is Ramanuj and welcome to the episode 3 of our microservices and Spring Boot tutorial series. Well, in the last video, we built a simple application wherein we understood how does Spring Boot really works, how to build a simple API using Spring Boot. That application was pretty simple. Now let's try to build something more meaningful. Let's consider I do have an application that handles different products. So I'd be able to add different products in that application wherein products would have certain properties, and I would be able to maintain the stocks of product wherein I can add some product, I would be able to delete some product, I would be able to update a product, change the quantity of the product, and so on. So for that, let's think of it, right? So how exactly we will build that application before we go for coding? Generally, we divide any application into multiple layers, and we call them the layer wise design or layer wise architecture. In a typical application, we do have, first of all, there is an API integration layer. So this is considered as your API integration layer, or you can also consider as a controller layer, whatever you like to say. Secondly, in order to write any kind of business logic, we create a layer known as a service layer, service or business. And for writing storage logic, we create a layer which is known as the persistence layer, or we also call it as a DAO layer. So let's put it here. So you do have a layer called persistence or DAO, or even you can call it as a repository. Let me use different colors so that it will look good. This one, I would give a different color. And at the end, there would be a database. Let's see if I have a symbol for the database here. So the data would be stored to a database. Let's suppose MySQL. Okay. So client will communicate. This is our client. Is gonna communicate to my API integration layer, and it's going to make any kind of request like get request, post request. There are different types of HTTP requests, and then the request would be taken by the controller, and then any kind of business logic that I want to perform, that would be communicated to the service layer. And then the service layer, if there's a need for communicating with the database, like to fetch some data from the database, it will communicate to the persistence layer, and persistence layer is going to communicate with the database to store the data or to retrieve the data. So that's how this application will work. And in order to communicate, right? So in order to communicate or in order to share data, we need some structure of the data, and those structure of the data or those classes that we will create only to represent the structure of the data are known as model or DTOs. So I would explain you what is the difference between model and DTO and what to be used at what scenarios. But right now, for the simplicity of this example, let's consider they are all model. Here I would have a model, and here I'd have a model. Cool. So that's how it will work. Now let's try to understand how exactly we will implement such kind of design in a Spring Boot application. So first of all, let's get started by creating a fresh Spring Boot application. So I'll close everything in the previous application and let's get started. The first thing that I would do here, I'd go file, new project, and I would fill some properties. First of all, I would use the same folder wherein we were doing, this is the Spring Boot series folder. And the name of this, let's give product service. Okay, so I'm giving a name, simple name, product service. And here I would choose Java, and I would choose Maven, and I would change it to our namings that we are giving, right? com.rds.product service. And the name of that application is product service. Anything else? I don't want to make two things. That's fine. And yeah, the JDK I'm using 21, Java I would change it to 21, and I would choose the jar option here. So these are the things that I would do. Again, if you are not using IntelliJ IDEA Ultimate, you won't get this option. No worries. Please follow the previous approach. Watch my video, how did I create the previous application. You can follow that approach to build your application. Go to the Spring Initializer website and create the application, download it. It will work. Let's go to next and let's choose the dependency that we want. So what are the dependencies that I'm going to select for this project? For the time being, I would add only simple dependencies. One of the dependencies that is needed in order to build APIs is already, we have seen that, Spring Web. Let's add the Spring Web dependency. Apart from that, do we need anything else? Yeah, I need one more dependency that I'm going to use later on. I'm going to tell you what is the utility of that. That is called Lombok. So these are the two dependencies. I'm going to add it right now. Later on, I would add the MySQL and other dependencies. Right now, I'm not adding the MySQL. I'm keeping it very simple. So let's click on create, and the application will get created, and you can open this application. Let's open the application. Okay, so application is opened. You would be able to see that the application has been opened. And what we are going to do is let's explore the SRC folder. Now, as usual, just like the previous application, we have the SRC folder and all the other folders. Right now, what I need to do, already I have the Java folder, and under this folder, I want to create all the layers. Just now we have discussed about different layers. So all these layers I want to create, right? So all these layers that I want to create. So let's get started with the API, service, repository, and the model layer. Let's get started. The first thing that I would do here, I'm going to create a new package, and I'll give a name, API. Cool. Similar to that, I'm going to create a new package, another package, and I'm going to make it service. Let me make it a little bigger. Yeah. Now let me make another package here for the repository. And lastly, let's also create one package. Here I'm going to keep it for the model. That's cool. Okay. So this is how we should create our layers. So in a Java application, layers means packages. So we have created different packages. So the first thing that we need to start with, so we have an application, and the first thing that we need to start with is a model. Whatever that, whether we build an API or a logic to save the data in a database, that needs a model, right? First of all, we need to decide what are the data that I want to store. What is the structure of the data? And that's where model stands. So let's create a model. How do you create a model? Model is just a simple Java class, which is also known as POJO, plain old Java object. So let's create that simple Java class. I would create a new Java class here, and let's give a name, product. Okay. So you can write product. Some people do write product entity. Anything is fine. Anything will work. Let's use product. And let's think of what are the properties that I need in this product. So one thing that I need is an ID. Let's think of a long ID. Of course, it makes a lot of sense to use encapsulation. So I would use private long ID. So in fact, product would definitely have a name. Apart from that, it might have some description as well. And also it would have some price. So let's think of a price. And also I would have a quantity. Okay. So current quantity, whatever quantity that I'm having in stock, right? I can have more information, but let's keep it simple like that. Okay. Yeah. So this is my product entity now, or product model. Now what I need to do here is I have to create all the getters, setters, constructors, toString, and so on. Of course, I can create it using ID provided features. Like I can just do a right click and I can go to the generate option, and there are all options to create constructor, getter, setter, equals, hash code, and all such things, right? So you can easily create them, of course, but I don't want that my class should have a lot of boilerplate codes. How can I reduce it? And that's where I'm going to use the dependency. Like while building this application, while creating the project, I have added one dependency called Lombok, and that's what I'm going to use. If you want to know more about Lombok, you can watch my video on Lombok. Right now, what I want to do, I would just add one annotation here, add data. So add data creates all the getter setters for all the fields, the toString method, the equals and hashcode method, and so on. You can also move your cursor over here and you will get this information. So what exactly it does. Let's also do one more thing. I want a constructor, maybe. I want a all arguments constructor, all args constructor, and I also want a default constructor, which is a no argument constructor. Cool. So these are the basic things that I'm having. This is my model class, and these are the properties that my model has. Let's save this. Now let's think of a repository class. So I already told you what is the purpose of the persistence or the repository class or repository layer. It will have all the logic to store the data, persist the data. Now, right now, in order to simplify this, what I'm going to do, I would use a simple repository wherein I'm going to store the data in a list rather than storing the data in a database. In our next video, we'll learn the concept of database and how exactly we can save the data using a Spring provided concept called Spring JPA or Spring Data JPA. Now, let's just create a simple class here. In fact, you can create an interface also, but I'm just creating a simple class, Java class, and I'm going to give a name called product repository. And in this, what are the operations that I would have? Okay, let's try to understand the operations that I'm going to have. So first thing, I would have a public. Okay, and I want to store some or add a new product. Okay, public, and it's going to return me a product back, product, add a product, right? Let's remove all the auto-generated code. So this is a method that will add a product to my storage. Now, where is the storage? So let's create a storage as well. So let's simply create a list here, list of products or products DB, something like that, equal new array list. So that's how we create a list in Java. Done. Now what I'm going to do, I would write a logic to save the product. So I would just write product db.add product, and I would return the product that I've stored. Okay. Next thing that I'm going to do is let's create a function to fetch all the products. So public list of product, get all products. I would return the list of products that currently whatever is being stored. The next function that I'm going to write, let's suppose I want to get a product by using an ID. So let's write a function for that. You can write this logic or you can write a better logic, right? So a return, you can write with a stream API. Okay, so we'll just filter based on the ID, and if the ID matches, yep, that's fine, we would return. What is the next thing that I can do? I would probably need a function to delete a product. So let's create public void delete product by ID, and I would write a logic, and there's a simple logic remove if wherein I can pass a predicate. This is the Java concept, and here next is I should be able to update the quantity. So I would just update product. So I don't want to do a lot of things like this. So I've just simply public, it's going to return me product, update product, and update quantity. I'll name it as update quantity. So wherein I would pass the product ID as well as the quantity. And here, first of all, I would fetch the product And if I find the product, if it is not null, then I would set the quantity and then I would return the product. So that's what we are doing. But yeah, what if the product is not present? So right now I'm not doing the exception handling. Later on, I'm going to implement the exception handling as well. So that's fine, right? We have implemented, these are the methods that we have implemented. Now let's think of a service layer, right? What is the purpose of service layer? The purpose of service layer is to do some business logic, right? So let's suppose I have some complex logic to be calculated. I want to apply some discounts. I want to do some calculation. So any kind of complex business logic that I'm having, I should write it in the service or the business integration layer. Let's do that. Let's just write a new. So let's create a simple, first of all, I want to create an interface wherein I would define all the methods that I want to have. Product, service. Done. So we have created this interface, and let's define all the things that we need here. So I need a method called add product, which will take the product. I need a method where I need the list of product. I need a method to get a product by ID. I need a method to delete a product by ID. And also I need a method to update the quantity. So these are the methods, generic methods that I want. So I would define those methods. Let's import all the classes and interfaces. Done. This is the logic that we are having. Next thing that we are going to do is to create a implementation for this. How do you create an implementation? Obviously that's a Java class. So let's create a Java class, and here what I'm going to do, I would write product service implementation. Done. So yes, I've created this product service implementation, and wherein what I'm going to do, all the logic to save the product in the storage. Right now that's a list. It's present inside my repository. So what I need is an object of repository first. So what I'll do, first of all, I would define that private product repository. That's fine. And what I would do, I will implement that product service interface. And I would click here and I would implement, let's select all the methods, and I would get all the methods. Done. And I would write logic for that. So product add product. So generally it is going to return product repository dot add product. So it's going to make a call to this product repository dot add product. Next, what I'll do, return here product repository dot get all products. This is the function that is going to return me all the list of products. Next, what I'm going to do, get product by ID. So let's return product repository dot get product by ID. And similarly, we have a delete logic. So what I'm going to do, return, there's no return. So I would just do a product repository dot delete product by ID. That's cool. And lastly, update quantity. So I would just make a call to my repository function, product repository dot update quantity, wherein I'll provide the ID and the quantity. Makes sense. So these are the things that I have done. Now what will happen in a basic, from our basic understanding of Java, when we are creating whenever we are creating an object, this is not a complete object creation. The value of this currently is null. The default value is basically null. So whenever I'll make a call to this function, it will lead to a null pointer exception. So for that, we need the object. So we actually need to write a new product repository. Then only the code is going to work. Okay. But we are not going to write it like that. We are going to implement something called dependency injection. And that is something that Spring is going to provide. And we need to understand it. So for time being, I'm not implementing anything. Let's keep it like that. So till this point, we have completed our service implementation. How about the API integration layer or the controller layer? So for that, what I'm going to do, let's create a new Java class, and I would name as product controller. Done. And that's cool. As usual, I'm going to annotate this class with our previous annotation that we have already used at REST controller. And also I'm going to add a request mapping. Let's write in a very standard way. Generally, the standard way of writing is like API slash, then we do versioning like v1 slash products. So what will happen, every request that I make, that will start with API and so on, right? So I will just write slash API. So it'll start with API v1 products and continue with the next remaining part. So let's, first of all, I need, so as we have already discussed, my API there needs, and in order to do anything, it needs an object of the service or the business integration layer. So I need to declare an object of, I would declare an object of product service. Done. So we have declared an object of product service. Now let's do, first of all, what I'm going to do, let's create a function that fetch all the products. That is very simple. We can just write public list of product get all products. Makes sense. And it's going to return me all the products. Right now it is just a function. I want to connect it to a mapping. What I would do, I would write at get mapping, which we already know. So generally this request would be slash API slash v1 slash products. Then only this will return. So this would get appended. I didn't write anything. So if I write slash list here, so slash list here, so it would become like slash API slash v1 slash product slash list. I don't need that. So I won't write anything. I'll just keep it a simple get mapping without passing any parameters. Next thing that I'm going to do is to fetch a product by ID. How exactly I can do this? So let's write public product get product by ID. So we do have this, and we would write return product service dot get product by ID. Now here, what I do, I would write a get mapping. Okay, so I have a get mapping here. Now try to understand what I want. I want to have like slash API slash v1 slash products, and then I want to pass an ID. So let's suppose 1, 2, or whatever might be. So this 1, 2, whatever value that I am passing here, it's a dynamic parameter. It is a dynamic parameter. And how to catch the dynamic parameter? So in order to declare something that it's a dynamic parameter, we need to write it using curly braces. Here I would write ID. Okay, so here I would write ID. Of course, I need to give a slash. So slash ID. So then here I would remove the slash. 2 slashes are not required. So you have an products and then slash ID. Now, how would I catch this ID? So I have a variable here, ID, and I want to map the value of this URL parameter to this variable. How can I do this? For that, Spring provides you an annotation called at path variable. So you just need to do a path variable so that whatever you are passing here would be mapped to this variable. Also, sometimes you might have a different name. So here you have use PID or product ID, something like that. And here you have use ID. So which will obviously create an inconsistency. So to avoid that inconsistency, you can write PID here. So it will understand, okay, I need to take the value of this path variable called PID and I want to assign it to this variable ID. But to avoid such situation, always give the same names so that we won't have certain problems. That's cool. So we do have this. Now, till this point, everything is fine. How about making a post request? How exactly we do the post request? Very simple. Just like we have a get mapping, we have post mapping as well. So first of all, let's create a function to save the product. Save product or add product. Let's give a name add product. Add product. So to this add product function, I am going to pass a product, and then it's going to make a call to the product service dot add product. So it's going to make a call to product service dot add product functions. First thing that I need to generate it as a post mapping. Whenever you are creating a resource, new resource, you need to create a post mapping. you have to pass some data, and that's where you need post mapping. Okay, so we have created a post mapping, and the mapping would look like /API/v1/products. That's fine. Now, what I need to do, this, I would pass a body to this request. So HTTP request has two parts, the header and the body. So this is coming through, that URI parameter is actually coming through the header. But when you have to pass a lot of data, URI parameter isn't the right thing. So you should use a body. So in our case, we would send some JSON data. How my JSON data would be mapped to this variable? I need to do something. Well, in Spring Boot, everything is very simple. Just need to add one annotation, add request body. So what request body does, whatever body that you would pass while making this post request. So in our case, we would pass some JSON values. So that JSON value will map to this product class, and we'd create this product object. So that's how it will work. It's pretty simple. That's how things will work. How about making a delete request? So in order to make a delete request, you need to write, all that you need to write is a delete mapping. Delete mapping, and as usual, we are going to pass the ID. So let's pass the ID, done. And let's create a function, public void delete product by ID, void delete product by ID, and would pass the path variable once again, and we'd make a call to the delete product by ID. Makes sense? Next thing is update the quantity. So in this case, I am going to make actually this could be a put mapping or a patch mapping. It makes a lot sense to make a patch mapping, because what is the basic difference between a put mapping and a patch mapping? Put mapping is like when you are, updating the complete resource. Patch mapping is when you are updating a resource partially. So what I'll do, I would use patch mapping. Again, you can write put mapping also. It don't make a lot of difference here. So herein, I would pass two things. First is the ID, which is a dynamic parameter. I would write like this, and then quantity, I would pass the quantity once again as an dynamic parameter. So it would be like /ID, the value of the ID, the quantity, and the quantity. Next, what I'm going to do, I would make a public product. I would write this function, and I would read the ID as well as I would read the quantity. That's cool. And then I would make a call to this. So that's how I'll complete all the functionalities. So everything is completed, but right now, if I run this application, all I will get is null pointer exception, because these are not instantiated. Okay. So in order to initialize or in order to instantiate, we are going to use a concept called dependency injection. For one video, it would be too much. In the next video, I would implement the dependency injection here so that the code should work. For the time being, what I'm going to do, I would just simply create it here, which is not the right thing that I would do later on. But right now, in order for my code to work, I'm doing it. So new product repository, done. Similarly, I would come to my product controller, and here I'm going to write product service equal new product service implementation. Yep, that's cool, right? So we have created it, and let's test this application. So in order to test this application, what I'm going to do, first thing that I would change the port. I don't like to run it on 8080 because most of the time it would be used by something else. So let's change the port to 5000, which is one of my favorite port. Okay, cool. Let's try this. Okay, Mac user, let me tell you, if you are using the M1 processors or M series processor, your 5000 port might be already used. Okay, so please use any other port, right? So don't use 5000. It's specifically for Mac user. Let's save this. And what I'm going to do, let's run this application. Let's run this application. Enable annotation processing. And yes, the application got started. It has started on the port 5000. Cool. Now the thing is, I don't have any product right now. How exactly I would be able to fetch the product? Of course, I need to make a post request to save a product. How exactly I would be able to make a post request? So in order to make a post request, I need a REST client application. we have multiple options, right? So we have different REST client application. We can use Swagger as well. I'm going to use Swagger later on, but for the time being, let's use the most popular one, which is Postman. So let me open my Postman. So this is my Postman, and here I'm going to create a request. Let's make a post request, and on where? Localhost. Let's make it bigger so that you can see it. Localhost 5000 slash I have API slash v1 slash products. Done. And then I would pass some body. How do you pass the body? So you have to select the body section from here. You'd select the body section, and from here the type is row, and from here you choose JSON. So this is the thing that you need to do, and let's pass some JSON. So let's add some JSON. Okay, so what we have ID. Let's have a quick look on our product model. So our product model is having ID, name, description, price, and quantity. So let's quickly write them. ID, let's pass an ID 1. Name, let's give a name. iPhone 16. Let's add description. Okay, let's write some description like Apple iPhone 16. You can add more things. Next is the price. The price is maybe, what's the price? Like in India, it is around 80,000. So let's write 7990 like this. Okay. And then we need to update the quantity. Let's add the quantity. And let's add the quantity as 1. For time being, let's make a request. So here you need to click on send. Look at this quickly. It's localhost 5000 API v1 slash products, and we went to body, which selected JSON, and we have passed this. JSON is you have to be very careful, this comma, and you have to write it properly using quotations. So that's done, and let's click on send. What we got in return, we got the data. Okay, so we got the same data that we have sent. Okay, now let's make a get request. I want to make a get request. Let's make a get request on this. Okay, so get request doesn't need a body. You actually don't need, so you can ignore that. And whenever you make a get request, you see you get the list of all the data, right? Let's add one more so that we'll be able to see. So let's make another post request, and this time I would add ID 2, and name is, let's add a MacBook Pro. Let's Apple Pro 16-inch. Cool. And the price is, in India it is again 2.4 lakhs, I believe. I'm not pretty much sure. 240. Cool. And quantity, let's add 10. That's cool. And let's send it. So I made a post request, another post request. Now if I write a get request, see, let's make a get request, and you see it's going to show me all the products that's been stored. I would be able to see all the products that's been stored. And apart from that, I want to make any other request. Let's suppose I want to delete one of them. Let's try to delete slash products slash, I would pass the ID. Let's delete the ID too. So if I do that, let's do this, and it doesn't return me anything, but everything is fine. Let's see the product right now. Let's see all the products. Let's make a get request. And if you look at all, you would be able to only see only one right now. So this is how you'd be able to delete. Let me add this back. I would make a post request and I would add it back. Okay. Also, you'd be able to fetch any product. Let's suppose I want to get a product by ID. So product /2, if I enter, you see, I got this product. You see, I got this product with ID 2. So that's how we would be able to make all the requests. You want to update the quantity, how would I exactly do? For that, because we made a patch request, so I would select from here patch. So patch / products, and for this, and earlier the quantity was 10. I want to reduce the quantity, so I would just write quantity / what I'm going to do, I would pass, I want to reduce it to 5. Look at this. How did I pass? /2, which is for ID, and then the quantity, and then / the quantity. Let's quickly make this request. Yeah, and look at this. The ID 2 has been changed and the current quantity is 5. Okay. You can cross check. You can make a get request and get all the products once again. Let's make a get request and look at this. For my iPhone, the quantity is 1, and for my MacBook, you can see the quantity is currently, it is 5. That's all. That's how we built our REST APIs to do all the basic operation. Now, what we need to implement here, we need to implement the concept of dependency injection. We need to implement the concept of auto wearing. There are a lot of things. So in our next video, we'll implement all those things. And also we are going to integrate MySQL database with this application. I hope you liked it. You understood how exactly we build a Spring Boot application in a layer-wise architecture and how exactly it does work, how we build different types of requests, different HTTP requests. We have get requests, post requests, patch requests, put requests, delete request. So that's all for this video. I would be meeting you in the next video. Thank you so much.